See, we got Ben Todd here, Dr. Ace, and Samsung SMG900A. Welcome. I don't know who's doing that, but cut it out.
Doing what?
Oh. I don't know. I heard somebody was motorboating. They were like,
oh, that was me.
That was you? Yeah, cut that out. I was doing that before anyone else was on. It was just you.
Oh.
We got viewers.
Oops. Where are my manners?
All right. Okay. So let's get started, guys. You can, there's a chat here on YouTube. We're streaming it to YouTube. There's a chat on Instagram. We're streaming it there. As far as on the YouTube, I'll post the link here. So you can come to the actual Zoom talk because the Zoom, we see the comments immediately, and then we'll answer them in a timely fashion. If we get bored or there's no comments on Zoom, then we'll look at Instagram, then we'll look at YouTube. So if you really have a burning, itching thing that you want, then over here to the podcast. This is episode 45, and we're about to get officially started. As soon as co-host returns. If you have any ideas, comments, questions already, feel free. You don't got to wait. Just get it started. Let's get it started. Yeah. Hold on. Spilled something.
Today or tomorrow is the new moon. So make sure that everyone sets some nice intentions for the next 28 days. Soul grown. Hello, my friend.
Soul grown.
We're about to get started on this next episode, talking about
the best names.
Schooling system. Everyone's favorite subject.
Soul grown is one of those names. I was listening to this, and may he rest in peace. May he rest in peace. Chris Cornell is a singer, or he was a singer. He died, but he was, on the radio yesterday. I was at this place, this venue, and his his claim to fame was the band Soundgarden, which was such a cool band name. Soundgarden, like what a cool name, Soundgarden.
Wow.
And that reminds me of Soul Grown. Soul Grown is a cool handle for sure.
Absolutely. Wow.
Soundgarden, man, that's such a good name, man. I wish they hadn't taken that name. I have a great band name, by the way. When I'm about 50, I'll start my band. I don't want to be one of those starving artists that's like needing everyone to pay me so that I do my art. Like I want to have my money right, and then I'll do my art free of that. But I'll go ahead and give you the name, because just give me credit. And if you don't, then I'll get Frank White to curse your soul forever. And my band name is called Sound Speech.
Sound Speech.
Sound Speech.
That's also very flowy.
Sound Speech. Sound Speech. Sound Speech. It's a double meaning, right? Because it could be sound speech, like it sound like well-rounded. But it's also sound like is in the sound. Okay. All right. That was before recording. That was a little gift for everybody. All right. We're going to get started. Thanks, man. Appreciate you sharing that. Welcome. Om 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, to this episode number 4-5 of Science and Spiritual Growth. It's a very exciting episode. We're talking about spiritual perspectives on the schooling system. I'm Yogi Chris, PhD, one of your hosts. I travel the world teaching yoga. I'm the founder of Ninth Limb Yoga. It's a new path to an old destination. That's liberation. And author of many books, host and co-host of many podcasts. I'm very excited to be here. I also have a PhD in the human universities, masters, bachelors, all that good stuff. I've lived many lives in this lifetime, plus, lives before this lifetime. So I'm excited to give you my opinions and my perspectives and really keep it as such. It's not required that you be an adult to listen to this podcast, but definitely be an adult in your mind when it comes to, don't take everything I say as like fact. You know, this isn't the gospel truth. Even the gospels aren't the gospel truth. So use your intelligence. And other than that, I got some experience. I tend to speak about things that I know about. And if I don't know, I say I don't know. And I'm joined by another man who has immense wisdom, born of advanced meditation practices with full total recall. It's almost like that movie. It's like total recall of past life as a monk. And in this life, he's Little Monk, known as Little Monk IMC. He's from Toronto, Canada. His name is Yuri Verbashchuk. And I'll hand it over to him, brother. You brought to us this idea of spiritual perspectives on the schooling system because of some audience comments that have given to you. By the way, everybody, you can always send us messages. There's links in the descriptions to get a hold of us. Join our private Facebook group for monthly talks plus weekly content that Yuri gives out. This is a private group, but it's free admittance, so join us. And so I'll hand it over to Yuri. What's up, brother?
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Hello, everyone. And one of my friends asked us to talk about this topic because it's a practical and prevalent topic for people on Earth. And we've all gone through the educational system, the schooling system. So let's talk about it. How do you feel about elementary school, high school, post-secondary university, college? Would you recommend people to go to college? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions on this? What are your spiritual perspectives on the schooling system?
I'm muted because sometimes I have this thing where I cut people off, so I cut myself off. But now I'm unmuted. You know, I tell you what, but a spiritual perspective, you know, if I look through the eyes of my make-believe spiritual self, I don't even see, I am blind to the school system. Like, I don't even see it. I'm like, if I'm colorblind, which I am, and I don't really see red, then I don't really see schools because that shit is dumb. Like, like, you know, learn a bunch of stuff that you're never going to use. You know, yeah, it builds on itself. It's kind of hard to really quantify. There's let's just say that almost everything that you are tested on after 5th grade, you're not going to use, with the exception of maybe some algebra. But even then, I mean, you know, so you don't really need it. Like, you know, yeah. Okay, so here, I'll go a little bit more serious on it. As a human, your power is talking. This is, and language, and the processing of language, the transmission of language. Language is your superpower as a human. And, you know, schools just beat that out of kids. I mean, my girlfriend has a son, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but just all kids. I mean, I've dealt with not too many kids as an adult, but enough kids to notice that the school system is not conducive to cultivating a child's ability to communicate. In many ways, it retards that communication, which is why I'm in the business of teaching adults communication. Why did I need to study communication when I turned 27? Like, I had a master's degree. I was working on a PhD, and then on the side, I was studying communication because, like, why is that? Why did I need to study goal setting? Why did I need to study meditation? Why did I need to study law of attraction? Why did I need to study emotional control? Why did I need to study emotional language? Like, why was that not given to me in, like, you know, it's absurd. So, you know, a spiritual perspective, man, if schooling is not developing a child's ability to communicate, which is to duplicate their ideas in another human so that they get it, and to foster positive relationships, then, you know, then it's taking you away from that. Like, I know, and Yuri, maybe you agree that as you go deeper into your spiritual practices, which are typically solitary kind of things, or even if you're in like a group environment doing it, you're having a very individual experience. Spiritual practice is a very individual experience. That a lot of the it seems to be an inverse relationship. The more you can forget what they taught you, the more you can remember who you really are. The more you can forget what they taught you, the more that you can have spiritual experience. The spiritual experience is not in their knowledge. It's transcending their knowledge. And but school, you know, it does, I think it taught discipline. It did give you a lot of exposure to a lot of people. So there's a particular schooling system that I like, that I read about, where basically you just had the teachers were just kind of like overseers. They were like conflict resolvers. They would suggest topic ideas and set the kids free to work in groups, research, get on the internet, basically. And but it was very open-ended questions, you know, like you would have a 2-hour class and it'd be like, okay, everybody. I don't remember. This might not be the best example, but it would be something like, what I don't know. What do you think about the idea of unconditional love? Is there such a thing?
Whoa.
Okay, you'll have a 2-page report when you come back, work in groups of 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. And just sit there, because what's the teacher going to teach you that the internet couldn't teach you? Me. I don't need to be educated to teach kids. I need to be good at communicating to teach kids.
Yeah.
And teachers are shitty communicators because the kid comes home, the kid leaves in the morning, all happy, good communication with the parent, comes home, shitty communication, low self-esteem, looking inwards, self-doubt, bullied. Like, what the fuck? School is just babysitting for irresponsible moms and dads. And, you know, it's both, really. I won't say it's really mostly moms or mostly dads. You know, shame on dads for not sticking around, and shame on moms for picking dads that wouldn't stick around. Like, you know, you're both fucking up. Like, stop making kids unless you got it right. Okay. So, Dr. Ace, you got so many opinions here. Reading, writing, syntax, grammar, all important. None of that did I learn in school, except, I didn't even learn reading in school. I learned reading from Hooked on Phonics at home because school bored the shit out of me. Writing bored the shit out of me. I guess I learned writing. I learned how to write at school, as far as like the actual put pen to paper, how to move my hand. But as far as like how to write, I didn't learn how to write until I started writing things that I wanted to write about, which happens as an adult. Or for me, it happened as an adult. I wish it did. I wish it had happened sooner. How much more of a genius I would be now if I had learned that important skill.
Yeah.
All important. Not all schools are made equal, so it's essential to be picky about what school. There are elementary schools that teach yoga, meditation, farming. Great. You know, that's super cool. The whole idea of the school is it's a communal effort so that it's babysitting for the parents, because both the parents need to work, because they're not succeeding at a high-end like industry. Like, I would wonder, where do Gary Vaynerchuk's kids go to school? Where do Donald Trump's kids go to school? Bill Gates's kids, where did they go to school? You know, that's going to be the rest. I think I'm a big fan of homeschooling, you know, and then just find community events. You know, the kids can join sports teams. They can join Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and you can organize, if you're a good adult, you have adult friends, and you can organize a big community of family reunions. You know, the schooling, man. So I could go into that. I'm going to hand it back over to Yuri, but I could definitely go into some more of the social consequences of that. And I'm sure at some point when I expel all my negative attitude towards schools, that I might even have a good say about it.
Yeah, when I was 19, I found Rashdi Bazaar's videos on YouTube, and I heard his perspectives on school and the schooling system. And the first thing that I learned was to stop calling it education. It's totally not education. It is the schooling system. I don't know what the word schooling means or what the word school is. Maybe you can Google that. But yeah, it's what I look at it now. It's just like a farm for making kids remember some stuff that they don't need at all in their lives, most of it, and then to repeat it back on tests and then forget about it later. And that is the story of grade 1 to grade 12. And looking back at my life, I have wasted so much time in school. It's unreal. Like, I feel kind of bad about it. I didn't learn anything valuable. And I think that I don't know, the system is not working, obviously. And And yeah, what about post-secondary school? What about college and university? Would you recommend?
Well, and I want to say that it's not working in the same sense that like an alcoholic isn't working. Like there's a lot of times there's functional alcoholics. So they're getting the job done. They're getting their paycheck. They're feeding their family, but they're destroying themselves inside. And they're just a ticking time bomb waiting to, be face down in a gutter somewhere. It's just going to take, whether it's 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, but it's not good. And so the public school system is doing something, and there have been brilliant people and very successful and influential people that have come from that system. But, and I mean, we're not repeating things that people don't already know. Everybody that's listening to this podcast, you already know the school system is a joke. It's a socialist system that was developed basically as a surrogate for military training, and it's run like a factory. The bells, the sirens, the short breaks, like it's conditioning a human animal to be a cubicle automaton. And it's disgusting. It's nauseating that we do that. And, and yeah, like you're saying, like memorizing and regurgitating I hated school. So when the only times that I liked school was for recess, then when they took recess away, it was for lunch. And then when it came to, high school, it became sports. I was only going to school because I was looking forward to sports afterwards. That's all I wanted. I went home, I played video games. I never read. I cheated on almost all my homework, 270 out of 360 in my class. Then I went to a pretty easy school to get into, University of Oklahoma. It's not a really bad school, but it's not like an Ivy League school, but I got into it. No problem. I was wrestling there. I was pursuing some more challenging degrees that they offered, and I cheated my way through an undergraduate. I don't know how I got an industrial engineering undergrad. That's how easy. That's a joke. And that was a higher education school that was like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year to attend. That's how much a certificate means. The certificate from a Division I public university in industrial engineering means jack shit because I don't remember any of it. And after I completed it, I didn't remember any of it. And maybe I'm a special case. I think a lot of people did more work than I did. I mean, I just cheated my way through it. And then my master's degree, same story. My PhD is where I really started caring, but that's when I started caring is when I started realizing how much of a joke it was. They had me teaching graduate level and senior level undergraduate classes in subjects that I had never taken myself. And I was like, wait, you're having these kids that are 21, 22 years old, pay thousands of dollars to take a class from a PhD student who hasn't actually taken the class. And this is common practice in university. What the fuck are we doing?
Wow.
And then most of the hope for all of those students and most of the hope for me was to either get a public sector job, meaning working for the government. And my education at the PhD level was paid for by the government because we got a grant to do some research. I got that, I did that research. I came up with conclusions they didn't like. They said, go back and do it again. And I was like,
wow.
And then I started looking at global warming and I'm like, maybe this isn't true. Maybe global warming is happening because I was in environmental engineering and I had contentious opinions about that sort of thing. And I started to realize for myself that your education is like someone who said it here. Somebody said here, Soul Grown. I haven't read this thing. He says, have you heard of Weapons of Mass Instruction by John Taylor Gatto or something? I haven't, and I probably am misinterpreting from the title. But from that title, Weapons of Mass Instruction, I get it. You instruct a massive amount of people on the same belief system, and you have an army. You have an army of people that if somebody comes and said, your system is wrong, you'll have 1 million people say, wait, so you're basically saying I'm wrong for going through that system. Not ever realizing that they didn't really have a choice or they never realized their own choice to do it or not do it. So yeah, I get riled up about it because I graduated college with over $100,000 debt thinking that, there's a future in this. I graduated high school not knowing anything I learned really, except that I enjoyed calculus and I really, really, really liked girls. And I also, loved wrestling. And so that was school for me. Like, my fondest memories of before 18 or 17, because I graduated, I was 17, from 17 and before, are all relationships with other people. None of it was school. And none of it was relationships I had with other people in school. They were after school or somewhere else going on a date or, competing in my athletics and like my team camaraderie or with my coaches or like it had nothing to do with school. Those are my fondest memories. And then if I go through college, there's one memory that stands out from a job interview. A couple job. I enjoyed those job interviews. That was a fun process to get the inside scoop on like some high level engineering jobs, and they tour you through the factories and you meet some of the people like that. That was actually pretty cool. You know, there were some cool things for sure. Actually, okay, in school I did really enjoy going to the museum. I really enjoyed museum and field trips. But like, so that's, you know, why do we need a public school to go on a field trip? Just get your moms and dads and get the kids together and let's go to. I was in Maryland, so we would go to like Philadelphia. We'd go to the Smithsonian at Washington, D.C. We go to the Inner Harbor at Baltimore. Like, so that's different, you know? So like, I have a lot of passion about it, which is suffering. Passion means suffering. So I got a lot of suffering about it because I'm 20. I almost just said I was 27. I'm 32 right now. And man, eight hours a day, 6 hours a day. I mean, so much bullying, so much name calling, so much guilting and shaming, you know, like, Dr. Ace said here, which is super cool. She's from Dominican Republic. She says, my brothers went to school with the president's kids of Dominican Republic. That's super, super cool. Homeschooling is great if parents are good communicators. And here's the problem. Almost all parents are bad because almost all people are bad communicators. And especially with the kids that they're frustrated with and they start yelling and coercing their kids into doing things. And then your kid goes to school with a bunch of other kids that were coerced by their adults also. So you get a bunch of kids that are in a group together that the behavior they're modeling is let's be bad communicators and coerce each other. And then your kid comes home and you wonder why he has a bad attitude or she has a bad attitude. Well, she doesn't want, well, you ask her, how was your day? And she's like, it's fine. And like, that's the response. Why is that? Because school sucks, you know? And the whole hole in the wall experiment was they put a computer in the wall in some cheap, very poor villages in some third world countries. They gave it internet capability. They forbid adults from accessing this computer. You could not remove the computer from the wall without destroying it. And the kids would all circle around this computer and they would teach themselves English within like a month. They would teach themselves computer programming within 3 months because one kid would sit at the computer and 10 kids would sit behind them. And so they would all learn at the same time while one kid was working it. And then they would rotate out and they naturally, it's called self-organization. They self-organized around the education. All you need is a conflict resolver to oversee kids learning. And the kids are going to be way smarter than us. But the problem that we have now is a bunch of adults that are really smart, but they're shitty communicators. So they're emotionally frustrated and they're going to take it out in sexually taboo subjects and emotion and they're getting drugs and alcohol and they're just unhappy. And then they go to vote and then they're voting for how the government is going to coerce me based on their bad attitudes is how they vote. So we got a bunch of voters out there that are product of public school system that have just been soaked, just like drenched in negativity for 50% of their conscious life for 18 years of their life. And it's like, wow. And okay, let's talk about the spiritual perspective on schooling. Okay. So I feel as if when I started getting spiritual at 27, while I was in my PhD, I was basically 3 years old. Or no, let's go half of my conscious life. So I was basically 14 years old, you know, because half of my life was developing a part of me that I'm just going to not use now. Like, well, just like invest time in something that I'm not going to use. But again, I want to say that it's hard to see some of the things that I learned. I did learn to write. There's probably many fundamental skills that just kind of built on each other that I became so unconsciously competent of them that I forget that I actually learned that at school, that some teacher somewhere taught me that. And you know, and shout out to all of my favorite teachers throughout life that encouraged me, that protected me from bullies, that, you know, when I was upset, they handled it because a good teacher is a saint dealing with 30 kids or 20 kids that most of them have shitty attitudes because their parents are shitty. Like, you know, I don't know why they would sign up for that kind of punishment. And then to all of the guidance counselors and the principals and the teachers that had a limited reservoir of patience and limited communication, and they themselves were unhappy in their relationships and they transmitted that to me, fuck you. And to my parents for putting me in that situation, you did the best you can, but to the future parents, stop having kids until you can homeschool them or put them in really high private schools. We don't need that. Unless you're afraid that China's armies are going to come here and you need to make a bunch of babies to fight them off, then, you know, stop kids. I hand it back over to Yuri. This is a depressing pod. I'm depressing.
Damn, I couldn't have said any of that better than you did. That was phenomenal. I can't wait to watch the recording because I had so many realizations, especially when you were talking about the computer on the wall and kids huddling around and trying to learn. That's the nature of the human being, is an intense desire to learn. And this stupid ass schooling system is preventing that. And that makes me feel so bad. And shit, if you're listening to this, if you're 17, 18, 19 years old and you're thinking of going to university because you think it's going to help get you some security, or your parents are telling you to do so, or you think you're not going to be successful if you don't go, don't go. I'm telling you now, don't go. It's going to be a waste of time. It's going to be a waste of money. It's going to be a waste of resources. It's going to be a waste of your life. And for the 5%, I genuinely think that only about 5% of people that are in universities are actually meant to be there. Like, yes, you are doing God's work by learning engineering, by learning medicine, by learning law, and you genuinely need to go to university and you're genuinely passionate about it. And no matter what I say, you're not going to stop. You're not going to quit. That is your passion, man. That's great. But for 95% of people that are in universities, they're just there because it's just an extension of high school. And you're there because your parents want you to be there. You're there because you think you need to be there for some degree that you're going to go to a job that you don't want to go to, and do some work that you don't want to do. And then you're 40, 50, 60 years old and thinking, who the hell am I? Yeah, it's a scary thought. And I hope,
I want to give a little bit of a positive perspective so that, I don't know what I would have done in hindsight, because I was really, really pursuing wrestling. I had high aspirations of being an Olympic athlete. I wanted to be an Olympic wrestler. And, so university was the way to do that. It'd be nice if there had been like programs that I could train with and just have like a regular job during the day. The one that suited my abilities. It wasn't really encouraged. The whole system, it trickles down. The problem is when you take the alcoholic off of alcohol, they get much worse before they get better. And when you take the socialist support out of public school system, it gets worse before it gets better. And it's really, and on a massive scale, when you have millions of people, that's really going to be disastrous. So I don't know really a solution. I wish I had more of the philosophical understanding of that. So I can
wait. Can you say that again? What can be disastrous?
Disastrous because it's daycare for kids.
Oh, right.
School system. And then you'll have a bunch of parents scrambling for, okay, we want our kids to succeed. It's a dog eat dog world. If my kid doesn't get the right education, they're going to be, janitor maybe.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think so. They've made the government is like a drug. It's made the people addicted to it, and then when they take away their crack cocaine, there's going to be some massive withdrawals. And so I don't know what the solutions are. So I don't want to spend too much time harping on the negatives. I think people understand what we're saying. And, Angelica, or Dr. Ace, keep her on code name here, makes a good point. And everybody should know this. And everybody probably already does this. There are some degrees, some education that you need if you want that profession, medical professions, especially engineers, architects, some things that you need. But again, the need comes from the government, because the government gives you the certificate of architecture. The government gives you medical, you can practice. The government does this and that. And you could say, well, that's necessary. And I'm here saying there was a person that messaged me, and I haven't blocked them yet. If they message me again with an attitude like that, I'm going to block them. There's somebody that has attended this podcast. He has trained with me. He had a condition happen with his vascular system. And anybody that knows anything about what I do, I am prolific and proficient at resolving vascular system issues. Very, very good. This is like what I do. And, and my training, compared to a doctor's visit, compared to pills, compared to surgery, which are the options for what he has. But fuck, a month of training with me is nothing. It's pennies. Of course, insurance takes care of a lot of that for him because he has that. But even still, at some point he didn't, I told him what the price would be. He asked me if there was going to be a money back guarantee. I'm like, there is no money back guarantee because I can't guarantee that you're going to do what I tell you to. I asked him, did you do, because he's trained with me before. I was like, did you do the last thing that I told you to do? He's like, no, I haven't been doing that. And I'm like, but you want a money back guarantee from that? Like, you're not going to do what I tell you to. You've already shown that you're not going to. Would you ask a doctor for money back guarantee for the pills that they give you if you don't take the medicine? And he was like, basically, he came back with a big attitude of, you're not a doctor. Stop. Why are you treating the situation like you're a doctor? Yeah, I'm not an MD. I'm a PhD. You're right. I'm a doctor of philosophy. And, so go ahead, go to your Western medicine, And I'll see you in 10 years when it's worse and you've spent $10,000 and $10,000 and haven't solved it. And so the government somehow gave some people credibility through that, and it's absolutely necessary. If I got hit by a bus, if my arm broke, certain things like I would need Western medicine. So I'm getting slightly off the subject.
Yes.
You know, if what you want to do in life requires that government authorization. Go through the hoops to get what you need to do to get to where you want to go. Like you don't need me to tell you that. If you needed me to tell you that, then I just told you, you have my permission. Go ahead and do that. Everybody else, do what you want to do, man. If you want to go to college because you want to join a fraternity or sorority or an athletics team and you want to have that community, do it. If you want to go to college to, be drunk for 4 years and then figure it out afterwards, do it. I don't care. I'm going to keep climbing ahead of you while you stagnate in life. I'm okay with that because you'll become my customer in the future. I'm okay with that. But if you really want my advice, then I would say the best thing is, listen to people that are smarter than me on this subject. I would recommend Gary Vaynerchuk. I would recommend Stefan Molyneux. I would recommend, those are the two guys that come to mind as far as like they seem to have more of an understanding of the hierarchy of the education system. Here, in my opinion, I would say, the problem started way before the problem. So it would be convenient to say that graduating high school, I wish I had just gotten a job and started on that momentum, started building my savings, started investing, but then I wouldn't have known what job to get. Why? Because in high school, that wasn't driven into me. In high school, I had odds and ends jobs. I mowed lawns, I worked at a gun range. I coached at wrestling camps and things like that. But professional wrestling coach, like in a real sense, not like the acting wrestling. That's not really a career path for a few people, but those people are like Olympians. And so then it really would have needed to come in like middle school. There needs to be, just like in martial arts, the black belt, I don't know what the belts are, but the next belt up trains the next belt below. And then the next belt up from them trains the next belt below. And part of that hole in the wall experiment was the second graders teach the third graders. The third graders teach the second graders. The fourth graders teach the third graders. The teachers teach the 12th graders. And I thought that and they do experiments with that or whatever, but I don't know how successful they all are. When I have kids, which isn't going to be for another 2 decades, then I'll really start looking into that. I know we got questions, but I want to hand it back over to Yuri if you got anything. I know I cut you off.
Yeah, wow, that was phenomenal. I love it. The only thing that I can say is, we took the positive side of this is if you don't go to university, if you have the pleasure of being at a young age and listening to this podcast, then find the key word is education. So just start to educate yourself on matters that are important. And you're a human being. It's important for everyone to learn how to communicate. Start with that. Start with communication. If you invest all the resources that you would invest in university, which is, $40,000, and you invest it into learning communication from an expert, from a master, my God, you are the luckiest person on planet Earth. And yeah, damn.
Seriously. I wish I had found AZD or Rosh Dibazar while I was still an undergraduate. That would have been about the time he started getting going with that stuff. It would have just changed so much earlier on. But, hindsight is 20/20, and it's often I want to really express appreciation for my path because everything that happened as it happened is why I'm here right now. And I found yoga because of drug addiction. I found drug addiction because I found yoga because of wrestling technically, and then I really went to because of drug addiction, but because of how much free time I had as a master's student in engineering, because that's how much of a joke it is. And but because of college, I came to yoga, and what I'm doing with yoga. Yoga itself is not my path, but what I'm doing with yoga, what I'm doing with people via yoga as like my craft, is very, very, very close to my purpose. And so I found my purpose because I went to college. But it had nothing to do with college itself. It was that was a byproduct. I was put in the right situations around the right people. I could have just lived in that city and not gone to that college, and it would have been a similar state. So, appreciation for my past and what I hope for the future is, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, let's answer some questions and maybe I'll have some clarity.
Yeah, it's, man, you telling me that story of the guy that contacted you and wanted to fix something with his body, and saying that you're not an MD or you're not a whatever doctor, and going to doctors, and me seeing my friends that have graduated university, it seems like people they would just rather cling to authority and have the authority figure tell them what to do, because it's too scary or too difficult to think for yourself. And I think that's the position that a lot of people find themselves in. So again, the objective or the goal is to educate yourself and to spiritually advance, so that you can think clearer and have a better perspective on what's going on here.
Yeah, and truly, is in his mind, I was not the authority, because he was going off of the authority of those letters, MD, or the authority of whatever certificate comes with that gives somebody an MD. And, truly, somebody has to have jumped through some hoops and proven themselves to get an MD. But, I'll point the finger to myself that my communication was insufficient to prove to him my level of authority on the subject. And it was the way that he questioned it was disrespectful. So his communication was off, and so was mine. So I don't want to really harp on that too much. But, there are so many, you could call them conspiracies, but as a doctor, let's say if you have cancer, the doctor would tell you that you have chemo or surgery or radiation treatment.
Oh, man.
These are your options. And if they tell you, if they prescribe, they might be able to subtly suggest do this or that. But if they prescribe you anything other than that, they lose their medical license.
Oh, my God.
Their authority is given by the government, guys. And so that means the government tells them what they can or can't do.
Wow.
And so it's really the government, daddy government, mama government is in control of your education. The school system, they tell you what you can read. They make standardized tests. I'm sure there's a minority that have the specialty schools and whatever. I don't know that much about the schooling system. These are just my opinions of being a product of 12 years of, young schooling and 12 years of high-end schooling. I'm 24 years of schooling at public institutions in the United States. That's my authority on the subject.
Oh, man. Fuck that. Fuck the government. Fuck school. Fuck doctors. I went to a doctor because I was swimming in the ocean and I got some rash on my leg. And I went to the doctor and he always like, okay, this is the symptom. This is the cause, whatever. And he prescribed some creams, 2 creams, some steroid cream. And the government paid for it. It was like $25 or so. I'm very grateful for that. And I used this thing for 2 weeks. It did nothing. Like just mildly relieve the symptoms. I Google searched the actual disease, applied some coconut oil on my leg, instantly gone. So he's a professional drug dealer. And he makes money off of selling drugs. That's his business. Like that's a professional drug dealer. He's not a amateur drug dealer. The guys that you see on the street selling crack, cocaine, marijuana. That guy's a professional. If you want some professional drugs, that's what you go to.
I would even say the crack dealers are professionals. It's the doctor is an authorized drug dealer.
There you go.
He's authorized by the government to push his product. All right, so let's get to some of these. Doctor A, secondary schools depends on the career mainly because of skills and practice. Good schools, most good schools aren't public.
Damn.
Saul Castillo, spot on, brother. Realizing my individuality and growth process potential. Man, it's amazing. We don't even know our potentials. Like, have a conversation with me. I was talking with this guy yesterday, and I was like, what do you want to do? Like, when you're 50, what do you want to have? And he's named some things, and he's like, minimum $2 million, like a wife, a house. I was like, just one house or more? He's like, nah, minimum one house. And I'm like, why do you keep telling me the minimum? Like, I want to know the maximum. He's like, well, because as soon as I say the maximum, then I'm not going to be satisfied with that, and I want to make it bigger. And I'm like, I know. That's why. She's talking about the minimums that you'll tolerate out of life. We're talking about the maximums that you expect from yourself. Then the subject changed. Then we started talking about girls, and he was like, yeah, we're going to go downtown, and these honeys are going to be there, and it was spring break here, so there's nobody in town. He's like, and we're going to be their only choice. He had wrong ideas about girls, but the talked about it. He was like, and we're going to be their only choice with us, and this, that, the other. And I'm like, what happened to the minimum perspective? You hear how you're talking right now? Like now you're talking about your potential. Now you're talking about the maximum of what you desire from life. But when it came to money, career, marriage, family, you were talking in terms of minimums. And then when it came to like your desires, you were like, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that, it's going to be like this. And like you had no hesitation to say how you want it. So yeah, your potential, you know, have a conversation with me and I'll unlock that shit. All right. We got Saul Costello asks, and I got to go I have a meeting in 15 minutes. We got, can you access your throat chakra from a spiritual practice you can't pinpoint? By throat chakra, I only have an idea of what that is. What changes occur when you access this chakra? I don't understand the first question. Can you access your throat chakra from a spiritual practice you can't pinpoint? I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm accessing my throat chakra just by talking. So just talk and see what blockages are for you from talking. And what do you think?
You know, yeah, I mean, all the chakras are already happening. If you didn't have all the chakras happening, then you'd have some kind of retardation or deformation to your body or something like that. Like all the chakras are operating. And the chakras are just your mind. They're just your mind divided up into your physiologic and neurologic systems. And they just kind of tend to coalesce. The attention, energy, focus tends to coalesce around certain centers. You know, your tailbone, your sacrum, your solar plexus, your heart, your throat, your forehead, and your crown. And that's a 7 chakra system. There's 20 chakra systems, 26 chakra, 10 chakra, 4 chakra, 3 chakra, 212 chakra systems. There's lots of different systems because it's all in the imagination anyway, because it's in your mind. But when you talk about like accessing throat chakra, meaning like hack into it, change it around, in the same way that I have this mouse here and I move it around and I click, like, I locate your throat chakra and then move it around and click and do things to it. How do you access it? I mean, this is what I teach in the silent flute. You need a deep understanding of what it is so that you can identify it when it's happening. And I'll give you a clue. It has a lot to do with your language and your imagination, throat chakra, more than the others. They're all in the mind, but, as opposed to like a physical identity or an emotional identity, like those are very physical. But your symbolic identity is it's symbols, and those are all pictures in the mind. What was I going to say? How to hack into it? Man, I had some great stuff there. There are physical techniques that can pull your attention there, and meditative techniques, mudras. But really, the key here is, like, I can tell you all the techniques in the world, but there's a deeper question that's not being asked, which is, I would ask you, why do you want to hack into your throat chakra? Until I know that, because if you said, I want to hack into my throat chakra because I want to be the master of my creative expression, okay. But if you'd said, I want to hack into my throat chakra so that I can, with more, well, I would say, well, that's more of a heart chakra. Or if they said, I want to access my throat chakra to find my voice, well, I would say, well, probably a solar plexus chakra issue because you don't have self-esteem. Or access my throat chakra because I have difficulty swallowing, then I would say, well, that might have something more to do with the anatomy of your tongue than chakra system. So when I know your motivation for why, then I can actually give you some more clear advice. You got something, Yuri?
Like, I rap often to help my own throat chakra and sing when I want to engage my heart chakra more. I use rap to help communicate my ideas. Absolutely. Wow.
You want to have your chakras in balance. Like if you want to be a hip hop artist or a rap artist, you got to have your, just to be an evolved human being in spiritual growth, you want your chakras in balance. It's a chain. And if one of the links is weak, then it's going to break. That's limiting how much Shakti power. Your Kundalini is going to get blocked in one of these energy centers and it won't rise and then you'll explode. No, I'm just kidding. But you will explode in an existential crisis when you can't connect the Shiva and Shakti, the crown with the tailbone. So you want to really clear the pathway for the energy to flow up and down the spine. Okay, so yeah, answer that question. Why do you want to open the chakra? And then we'll get to it. Saul Castillo, school where parents take their kids to go be raised by other kids. Yeah, to go be raised by other. Yeah, and by other adults that don't have kids. Um, it's a funny situation. Like, yeah, it's just a funny situation, And a lot of it's just the deterioration. Stephen Molyneux would talk about it's a lot to do with the deterioration of the family unit. Because if my woman were married to a guy like me, like I don't have kids with her, and she won't have kids with me until I'm very, very established. I have my what do you call it? Compound. I have my whole living compound. I've got my handmaidens. I've got all the resources. She won't need to work. She can stay home and teach the kids. You know what I'm saying? The woman, she doesn't need to work, but she does if she doesn't have a guy that can take full care of her. And so then
You froze on Zoom. You froze on Zoom. Chris cut out, so the YouTube live is still going. Looks like this is the end for the podcast. I'll do this. Okay, Chris, is there anything else? Chris? Chris? Okay, you can't hear me on Instagram. That was a very insightful podcast. Shit. Oh, there we go.
Are you still able to see them or no? Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read them, please. And then we'll just use the Instagram video.
Okay, well, can you hear me?
I hear you on Instagram.
Yeah? Okay, there are charter schools like that in Orlando. My nephew go to that one. I think kindergarten to second grade, they teach each other or to an extent. Depending on the doctor, yes, but to some extent you're right. But you're right, all options should be given and some options must be given. I don't understand that. Okay.
I hear your attachment in your comments to that you've done it right. There's a big attachment to when the path that you've taken is right, or that the system that has trained you is right, because that's Dr. Ace, I can tell, that there's a big attachment to the school system that you chose is right, but the school system you're trying to go through isn't that wrong. Right. And so there seems to be, in your comments, I hear the language that maybe you feel as if I'm being too one-sided. When's the last time a doctor helped you? Not the plastic surgery, but you needed to go to a doctor's doctor. What happened?
I'm talking about experiences that you feel have changed you and notice it. I'm talking about the throat chakra, I think. So your language and your images in your mind, I got it there, man. For sure, man. What happened? Okay, that's all.
You don't got it, but you're getting close. You don't got it. Yeah, I still, what was his reason why did he want to open up his throat chakra or access it?
Let's see if I can decipher the. Yep. Okay, that was phenomenal. I hope the recording is going to be available.
Yeah, but it's going to be, it won't have the ending. But what is, there was also a Q&A.
No, there were just the one that yeah, and one more, but it was just.
So those are all the comments?
Yes, that's it.
We have a YouTube comment also, even though it's not streaming now, but he says, how does nutrition affect our path towards spiritual growth? That's a really open-ended, but definitely I would just look at the upstream. Wow, Luke Monk, you're still streaming on it.
Yes. Still streaming on YouTube.
You're still streaming on YouTube.
Yes. Maybe I can invite you.
Well, then I would say, it's a really open question. Nutrition affects you. I would say it like this. You are what you put in your body. So you are what you eat, drink, and breathe. And that's it. That's what you're made of. Your physical body is made of what you eat, breathe, and drink throughout your life. So look at that. That's going to be a big influence on like physical agitations, the elasticity of your tissues, sickness, things like that. And it's hard to develop spiritually when you're agitated in your body. So, there's that. Then, okay, one second. See if I can join this again. Maybe it's not still recorded, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. All right, well, I'm here. Hey, everybody, I'm back.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe you can start recording and then we can splice the.
Yeah, do you have video editing software?
Well, just iMovie. Just add the video together.
Oh, it's simple. Okay. Well, we'll do the quick closing. And then, so the physical agitation is going to be affected by and then we're almost done on Instagram. So it usually cuts out. So Instagram, every weekday at 12, join our private Facebook group. And, if you want to catch the ending, then click the link in my bio really quick and come over here to Zoom. So actually, I'll end it because I don't like it carrying on. I like rap often, open my throat chakra, and sing when I want to engage in my heart chakra more. I use rap to help communicate my ideas. It's nice. So yeah, just pretend like you're speaking is rapping.
I just realized, and never mind.
Okay. And then the other thing I would say is then the mental upstream consequences of like where does your food come from? What's the origin of it? All the human labor, the animals, the plants, the effect on the environment. Ignorance of that does not absolve you of the cause and effect. Maybe absolves you of the guilt of the cause and effect, but you will still be subject to the effect of your choices, whether you understand them or not. And then with understanding comes responsibility, and that's a heavy burden. So paying attention to the origins of your food and then the quality of what you're putting in your body, which includes breathing. Breathing and food go hand in hand. And I'm a master of breathing more than I'm a master of food, because there is a way to breathe that will neutralize any negative effects of whatever you eat. So if you master breathing, you master the other. Okay, so I'll hand it over to Yuri. I need to go in a minute, so maybe we do the closing. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, that's it. Remember, your mind is very powerful, and let's imagine the best possible planet for us to live in.
I agree with that. Put your attention more on the outcomes that you want and less on your worries and doubts. More on what you want. Thank you all for attending. I'll see you every weekday at 12 p.m. EST.